we are live. I did not have time to do anything. So, let's get the live chat going. We already got some people in the house. Let's start off the stream. We have to talk about specifically this upcoming draft. Obviously, the draft is less than a week away. And we know that less than a week away, less than a month away, a lot of things are going to be happening in the next couple of weeks. I think the number one priority and the number one thing that everyone's going to be expecting is the Aaron Rodgers trade. And I'm with you. I'm in that same boat. The Aaron Rodgers trade is probably going to be the next domino that falls. The Albert Breer news and information that came out obviously mentions and states and all of that stuff that the New York Jets and the Green Bay Packers are really close when it comes to a deal. Now, my expectation was that the deal was going to get done sometime this week. I actually thought that we would have news by today, and we obviously don't, which I think says to me that the sticking point is still the compensation at the end of what's happening. Like, because we know for a fact that what's been agreed upon is a second-round pick this year and a second-round pick next year. And I think the real thing is just the conditions and everything that's happening. And so for me, what do I want to see happen in the month of April? Obviously, in the month of April, I want to see the Aaron Rodgers deal done and dusted. I am tired of talking about this deal, this trade compensation, what's going to happen. I'm done talking about it. Make the trade happen. Number two is I want to get all of our free agent signings done and dusted. The cap maneuverability, all of that stuff. I want to know how much space we're going to have. I want to know who's on the roster. I want to know all that stuff going into the draft. I don't want to be having to fill up massive holes and needs and spots post-draft like we were doing last year with guys like Quan Alexander. I want to have all of that done and dusted. So April needs to be the month, in my opinion, that Joe Douglas buckles down and gets the job done and starts doing what needs to be had. Now, whether that's going back to Green Bay and asking for permission to talk to Aaron Rodgers to try to get a commitment from him for more than 2 years so that we don't have to have a pick protection and coming back, having some type of conversation and saying, you know what, we're willing to give up a 2024 first if X, Y, or Z happens or something along those lines. Whatever it is, I want to see that done. I want to know, is Odell Beckham Jr. going to be a New York Jet? Is Corey Davis going to be a New York Jet? Is Carl Lawson going to be a New York Jet? Is Jordan Whitehead going to be a New York Jet? I want to know those things. This defensive tackle room is in shambles as of right now because all we have in that room is Quinnen Williams, Tanzel Smart, and Solomon Thomas. We need at least two more guys. Who are those two guys? Are we addressing that I want to know what the draft plan, what the strategy is, what we're expecting and trying to do going into the draft. I just want the picture to clear up. That's it. That's what I want. Brighter skies, a brighter tomorrow, and just some clarity. That's it. That's all I want is clarity. So, that being said, let's say hello to some of the people in the chat. Jesse P in the house, always coming in hot and saying hello and doing the right things. John Nalty in the house, thank you. Dakota also sent the first message. Dakota J is always the first person to send anything in any chat at any point in time ever. Love Dakota. Joan is in the house. London Jets fan. Jack, what's up, man? Dark Soldier in the house. Nalty in the house. New York Jets super fan in the house. Everybody is here. Everyone is saying what's up. How's everybody doing? Red John. April will be very revealing out of John Nalty. I agree. I think so too. And I really hope so. Like I said, I'm kind of sick and tired of having this expectation. Not expectation's the wrong word, but I'm sick and tired of having this talking point of, oh, the Aaron Rodgers trade. When is that going to happen? Blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm honestly tired of having Green Bay Packers fans, like, in my mentions being like, oh, just give up the 13th pick. Like, dude, anybody who has half a brain knows that 13 is not on the table. And I'm just sick and tired of having to teach these, let's be honest, spoiled sports fans about the reality of business in football. When you've been blessed, and the word is bless, by having 2 back-to-back Hall of Fame quarterbacks for the last 30 years, it's hard to expect that you're going to know anything about football. Like, Gutekunst, for all of the things that he is and all the stuff that's happening, like, he doesn't have a great track record as a general manager. So this expectation that anything or anyone or whatever's going to happen, like, anytime soon, is just one of those, I'm just tired of having these conversations. I just want it to be done, because honestly, this draft is going to be so interesting. There's so many guys, there's so many players that are going to be coming up in this draft that can really impact this team for the better, and like sooner rather than later. And I want to start talking about these guys. I want to talk about Broderick Jones and how excited I am as him as a prospect. I want to talk about Cody Mock and how I think he's one of the most interesting guys ever when it comes to this offensive line class. I want to talk about this safety class and how I don't feel like this safety class is very strong in the sense of what the Jets need at safety. This linebacker class is relatively deep, and who are the guys that I could see that I want to have those conversations. But when the cycle is dominated by Aaron Rodgers, and we know whose fault it is. You can't sit here and blame Aaron Rodgers. You can, however, blame Green Bay for not getting the deal done and essentially going back on a deal that was agreed upon before. But there's that. Riders and talents. Paul, what's up? We need some answers for sure. I agree. We absolutely do. I doubt Rodgers will give more than a 1-year commitment. I do too. And that's, I think, the biggest sticking point. The biggest sticking point right now is that 1-year commitment. And the Jets don't feel comfortable, and they shouldn't, giving up a bunch of assets for a 1-year rental in Aaron Rodgers. It's just that's the reality. You shouldn't do those things. You shouldn't commit a second-round pick this year, a first-round pick next year on a guy who's only going to be playing for 1 year. That's why it should be a second and a third, or it should be a third and a second. Like, you should get day 2 picks, nothing that's worth a day 1 pick. Now, if he comes back, if he commits for an extra year and we go to a Super Bowl or anything like that, I'll be more willing to give you a 1. But if you're telling me 1 year of Aaron Rodgers, and again, it might be 1 year of greatness. It might be 1 year of a Super Bowl run. It might be an AFC championship. Like, I don't feel comfortable giving you a ton of assets for just 1 year of a guy, especially when we look at the trades that have come and gone recently for these quarterbacks that went for massive hauls, and it just hasn't worked out. None of them have worked out, right? The Deshaun Watson trade is absolutely falling apart. The Russell Wilson trade is absolutely abysmal. The Trey Lance trade up hasn't worked out in their favor. Like, there's a lot of stuff that isn't going. And so spending a bunch of money, or not a bunch of money, but spending a bunch of assets on a guy that's only going to be here for 1 year, who might only be here for 1 year. I think we get at least 2 years out of him. But for a guy who might only be here for 1 year, be shocked if we gave up a ton of assets. John Nolte, if Rodgers has a great statistical season, I definitely can see him doing 2 years. I don't even think it has to be him having a great statistical season. I think if the team around him is great, if we go to a AFC championship game or a divisional game or a Super Bowl, like, would you not want to run that back knowing that we're not going to lose a bunch of players next year? You know what I mean? Like, that's what I think is more, like, if we don't even make the playoffs or we make the wild card and we get out of the wild card, that's a different conversation. But like an AFC chip game, a Super Bowl game, you definitely run it back, especially with the main core pieces coming back and running it back. And the team is only getting better, in my opinion. You have to have that level of conversation or compensation. Those Green Bay fans amaze me. They think they're getting Jermaine Johnson and picks. Jog on, guys. It's not just like, dude, it's absolute insanity. They're like, we want 2 first-round picks and Sauce Gardner. And it's just like, in what world is a 39-year-old Aaron Rodgers worth that? Like, it's like, it absolutely blows my mind. I don't get it. I don't get it. Who do you think will be our third linebacker? Sean Carpenter with a great question. I think it's Jamie and Sherwood. I think he's earned the right to be our third linebacker, and I feel confident enough giving him the opportunity to be our third linebacker. Like, I really, really do. I don't think that this coaching staff is as worried about linebacker and safety as the rest of the people, like, fan base is. I think maybe we do see a linebacker drafted, but like, I wouldn't be surprised, especially in this class, if the New York Jets pull another Jamie Sherwood and Hamza Nasruddin, and instead of drafting a linebacker, draft a safety to convert to linebacker or something along those lines, because there's a lot of these hybrid box safeties in this class that could definitely play linebacker at a high level. And you would take the safety because safeties tend to have better coverage skills than guys who just played linebacker. Linebackers, especially at the college level, tend to be box guys who just really help in the run, not coverage guys. And so if you can tell me, like a guy that I would keep an eye on if he takes a little bit of a fall because he got hurt, I think at the combine, is JL Skinner. If JL Skinner is there in the 4th round, which is highly unlikely, but if he is there in the 4th round, I would draft him, but not to play safety, to play linebacker. And I would, the way I talked about this on Jets Chaos's show earlier this morning, I would look at it as Jamie Sherwood is the heir apparent to CJ Mosley as of right now, and he should be. And then you go and you say, hey, right now we have Quincy, and Quincy is what, 27, 28. We got him on a 2-year deal, essentially. We can move on from him in 2 years. And then, like, and if we don't do anything to CJ Mosley's contract, he's gone in 2 years. If that's the case, now we're talking about Jamie Sherwood at middle linebacker and JL Skinner at the weak linebacker or the will linebacker. And that's I'm pretty comfortable in that linebacker pairing because both of these guys are going to have years of experience sitting behind really, really good guys and being on championship rosters. And so it's about building up that pipeline at this point. But I think our third linebacker right now is Jamie Sherwood. If Rodgers does well, people will treat him like a king and his ego will keep him here for another year. That's another good point. That's a great point. I'm shocked this hasn't gotten done before WrestleMania. Yeah, man, I'm surprised this is still happening. Like, it blows my mind that this conversation, that this trade, that this whatever still hasn't happened. I don't think it's that complicated. Just get the deal done. Like, because it's holding up other deals. Like, yeah. Give me a second. It's one of those things where, yeah, I thought I saw a breaking news and I didn't. It's just like OBJ isn't a Jet because Aaron Rodgers isn't a Jet. I don't think Ben Jones is a Jet because Aaron Rodgers isn't a Jet yet. Like, I think Calais Campbell isn't a Jet because Aaron Rodgers isn't a Jet. Like, it's holding up so many of these other deals, and while some people and some players are willing to wait, others aren't. And I think that's what happened with a guy like Calais Campbell. Now, we still don't know what Calais Campbell's contract is. I'm super curious to find out, like, what his contract came out to. What did the Falcons really give him that made him want to go there over the Jets? Because I think that's incredibly... that's going to be incredibly telling. But yeah. Yes, but I think that's twofold, right, Dom? First of all, welcome, Dom. What's going on? But I think it's twofold when it comes to that. Like, is that the deal? Is that what it was? $9 million guaranteed? How many years? I didn't see that deal. I didn't see that. Who tweeted that? I wasn't paying 9 either. It's 9 million for 1 year. Jesus Christ. Yeah, no, it's so it's a $7 million deal with $2 million worth of incentives. Wow. But again, let's say we were at 6, right? Let's say we were at 5. Does he take that if Rodgers is on the team at this point? Like, he's gotten paid like a lot of money. Wow, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for Calais Campbell. Calais at 9? Wow. That's insane. I didn't know that. That's an insane number. Holy crap. He wanted one last payday. Dude, I guess. Like, again, and then if that's the case, then good riddance. Like, I didn't want him anyway. Like, I want guys that want to ring chase, not guys that want to, like that's the whole point of this. Is like, this is the thing that scares me with OBJ, is I don't know if OBJ is ring chasing, or I don't know if OBJ is money chasing. Because if the reports are true that he wants $15 million, hard pass. Hard pass. Now, if he wants 8, I'll give him 8. That's a little bit of an overpay, but I'll give him 8. But Corey Davis can't be on the team if we're giving him 8. Like, this is the reality of it. If I'm giving him 8, if I'm giving him 7, I'll give him the Calais Campbell deal. I'll give him 7 with incentives, a bunch of incentives. Like the McCole Hardman deal. Like, if you look at his contract, is insanely incentive laden. He makes $250,000 if he catches enough balls, if he gets enough yardage, if we make it to the playoffs, with wild card game, a divisional game, a AFC championship game, a Super Bowl. Like, there's a lot of there. But, like, I'm starting to realize that the reality is the OBJ contract is going to be somewhere in the, like, $6 to $8 million range. And it's going to be insanely incentive laden because, again, he's got a track record of being an insanely good wide receiver. And yes, last year he was dealing with the injury because he got hurt like at the end of the year, which sucked, obviously. Like, he got, didn't he tear his ACL at the Super Bowl, or was it the NFC Championship game? When did he tear his ACL? I don't remember what it was. It was in the playoffs. And so, like, even before that, he's still an insanely productive human being and is a net positive to any. Was it in the Super Bowl, GVH? Thank you. He is still a productive member of any franchise. So he gets the money. I doubt we would have come here for 5 or so. If that's the case, then, like, again, good riddance. But Rico the Pup in the house. Emanon says, reminding everybody to hit the like button. I'd go with that. Pay OBJ low and load up the incentives to double his contract or something. Again, yeah, I would too. But, like, it's just a matter of what's the number that he wants. There was an interesting bit. That's a good point, Joan, when your comment shows up. That's a great point. He needs a health clause incentive. That's a good one. Like a percentage of, you can't do it as like a percentage of snaps played, but make it of games available. Like, you've got to be available for 70% of the games. You know? And, like, they mean, like, healthily available. Like, you can be on the bench. Like, you don't have to pay a snap, but you have to be able to dress and not have a medical reason be the reason that you don't dress. That'd be a good incentive. You get a great incentive. It's an interesting time. It's an interesting time. But like looking at the roster, let me look at something real quick. Spotrac, New York Jets, multi-year summary. Alrighty. OBJ gets to test the new MetLife term. Yep. Did you see OBJ's response to Sauce's tweet? No, I did not. Let me go pull up Twitter. Sauce Squad. No. Boom, 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 boom. God, he tweets so much about his stream. I'm never gonna find it. It's whatever. It's an interesting time. It's an interesting time. What's happening tomorrow, Donut? What's happening tomorrow? The thing with the incentives is I don't want him to be toxic and start demanding the ball like Moore did. And that's the whole point, Wild Wave. This is why I wouldn't want an incentive-laden contract. That's why I would just give him 8. Because let's say you give him 4 with $4 million worth of incentives. If you make those incentive yards, oh yeah, Donut is right. Tomorrow's going to suck. But if you make those incentives yards, catches, touchdowns, all of that stuff, it's going to be one of those things where you're just like, really? All of this? All of that, all that's going to like, and if he's not, like, what if he's not his former self? Or what if the thing that a lot of the Jets fans want in Garrett Wilson to keep going on in year 2, Denzel Mims to have a revitalization, Alan Lazard to take another step, and get even better than what he was in Green Bay, and Corey Davis is finally healthy and like finally spits in his gloves and starts catching. Like there's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Like there's a lot of mouths to feed when you look at this wide receiver room. There's a lot of mouths to feed. And if you're going to have a guy who's going to be asking for the ball a lot, that's a problem, because even with OBJ on the team, I'm not giving him the ball more than I'm giving it to, let's say, a Garrett Wilson. I'm not targeting him more than I'm targeting Alan Lazard. Hell, I don't even know if I'm targeting him more than I'd be targeting Denzel Mims. Like, OBJ, in my eyes, would be coming in to be wide receiver 4. I want him to be a red zone threat. I don't want him to be a staple in this offense. And that's my concern with an OBJ signing, is if he comes, does he want to be a staple in this offense? Who knows? Who knows? Make the incentives easy to achieve, but then why? What are the, like, okay, you're right, Red John, but what are the incentives? The only one that I can think of, the only incentives that I can think of that would like easy to achieve is like availability incentives. Like he makes an extra $1 million if he's available for 50% of the games. He makes another $1 million if he makes it. McCole Hardman, Jesse P with another one. I forgot. Jesse P makes a great point. I even forgot about McCole Hardman. Like, dude, we got a ton of mouths to feed. McCole Hardman can fix his route running, which is really the only problem that he has, in my eyes, is his route running. If he can fix his route running, he can be a threat, man, with that game-breaking speed. Game-breaking speed. It's interesting. It's interesting. We'll see what happens. Moore did that because Zach missed him all of the time. Then once we signed Lazard, he knew he'd be 2B at best. If OBJ comes in at 31 years old, knowing he isn't the future wide receiver, we'll be fine. But that's a big if, Rico. It's a big if of him understanding that he is not going to be the future wide receiver. Rob V in the house. I don't know what Dom C is whatting. Trinstar in the house. OBJ is still better than Lazard, Davis, and Mims. But here's the problem with that, NY Jets super fan, is yes, he's a better receiver, but we're not going to use him more than those guys. Lazard, Davis, and Mims provide something that OBJ doesn't, and that's run blocking. And with Nathaniel Hackett, a run-first offensive coordinator, those three guys, if they're on the roster with OBJ, are going to get more playtime than OBJ. They're going to see the field more. That's just how it is. I think he is wide receiver 4, Dom C. Who are you putting him above on this roster after 2 ACL tears? You know what I mean? Again, Vervain, I think so too, but it's about, like, again, I don't think we need OBJ. Like, if it's a matter of, like, let's say the Green Bay Packers don't want Corey Davis. I'd rather keep Corey Davis. Like, if the contracts are going to be the same, like, if the contracts are going to be similar, I'd rather keep Corey Davis. Like, that's the reality of the situation. Corey Davis is already familiar with the scheme. He's here. We know that he's a willing blocker. And you're just going to demote him down the depth chart to Corey Davis. Like, Corey Davis should become wide receiver 3. Allen Lazard should be wide receiver 2. Like, that's the way that it goes. Like, these guys are excellent in blocking, and that's what we're going to do with our big wide receivers. I said this last year. I think Corey Davis would excel in a role as a big slot. If he played a lot of slot reps, can you imagine Garrett Wilson on the outside, Lazard on the outside, and then Corey Davis in the slot? You would have an insanely effective running game out of a 3 wide receiver set, which is something that a lot of teams tend to have struggles with because your slot wide receiver isn't the best blocker. But then you would also just have 3 really good wide receivers on the team. Let's just straight up. Davis now, as Red John does say that, drops the ball a lot. That's why I wouldn't target him in those situations. But run blocking is a skill set that he absolutely does provide. And if he's demoted, because like last year, deserving or not, he was wide receiver 1. And then Garrett Wilson took that job away from him, as he should have. And then Corey Davis became wide receiver 2, which still was probably a little high for him. He should have been wide receiver 3 behind Elijah Moore. But because of his run blocking ability and Elijah Moore being like 4'11", couldn't really run block that effectively. And there you go. That's what happens. Running the ball is an effective part of this. And Salty is a moderator everywhere because he should be a moderator everywhere. Jeremy of Jets Chaos, what's up? Boom, 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 boom. Anyone that doesn't want OBJ on the Jets roster is in their feelings and not thinking football. I don't necessarily agree with this, and I also don't necessarily agree with this. It is a risky move. Like, okay, let's say you replace Corey Davis with Odell Beckham Jr. Yes, you're getting objectively a better wide receiver in OBJ, who will cost around the same amount of money, but you're going to be losing the best run blocker in the wide receiver room that you have. Maybe Allen Lazard might be better, but like, you're losing that, and that is a massive, massive, massive part of what, like, if you watch back last year and we look at what Corey Davis and Denzel Mims were able to provide in the blocking game for Breece Hall last year, that's a massive, massive situation. But also, if we see that, like, he's also coming off of 2 ACL injuries from the same leg on the wrong side of 30, who hasn't played football in a year, there's also a risk there too. It's about which option do you feel is less risk averse. So, again, I'm not anti-OBJ. Bring him in, but don't feature him. That's the thing. See, this is my concern, Joe Musa. I don't want him to be a wide receiver 2. I don't want him to be a feature wide receiver. At the most, I want him wide receiver 3. I don't want him to be wide receiver 2. And it has nothing to do with ability. It has everything to do with I don't want to put my faith in a guy who hasn't played football in a year, coming off of two ACL injuries off the same leg. You know, I would much rather put it into a guy that we know plays 16, 17 games, provides a run blocking element to his game. And like when you do 3 wide receiver sets, you bring in OBJ. In the red zone, bring in OBJ in the red zone should be automatic. You should bring him in. And like those are the things that I would look at. But having him out there for 70, 80% of the snaps, that scares me. It scares me coming off of those injuries. Rodgers could bring Corey Davis back to life. I don't think the quarterback has anything to do with Corey Davis. I don't know what it is, but him not holding on to balls, that's a mental issue. I don't know what it is, but yeah. OBJ would have signed somewhere already if he had reasonable demands. Again, Joan, while this does ring true, we do have to take into consideration that him and Rodgers do want to play together. Like he legitimately might just be waiting. There's reports out there that there are offers, that the Jets have an offer out, the Ravens have an offer out, like teams have offers for Odell, and he just hasn't picked one yet. London Jets fan, Corey Davis drops the ball and gets injured a lot. Absolutely. Yeah. That's another problem. Tinstar with the truth. He doesn't stay healthy. It is a concern. Not going to lie, a healthy Corey Davis as a wide receiver 3 is a great lineup. Of course, the healthy part is a big if. I can say that about OBJ too, though, can't I? Exactly. That's my point, Rico. I'm not trying to say a bad thing about, like, Odell, because Odell is very clearly an excellent wide receiver. I'm not going to say a bad thing about him. It's a problem of availability. He does have an injury history. Like, not as bad or as consistent. Let's say not bad. It doesn't have one as consistent as Corey Davis is. Corey Davis seems to miss time every single year with some type of nagging injury. But there is an injury concern there too. You know what I mean? Davis going to Green Bay for Rodgers, but Jets will still have a lot of good receivers that OBJ will have to beat out for wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. I think if Davis is gone, he's very clearly wide receiver 3. I just don't feel comfortable putting him as wide receiver 4. And Red John makes a great point here. I'm going to skip a ton of the chat. Let me see if there's anything. Not this. I don't agree with this. I don't think he should be wide receiver 2. And again, it's not skill, it's availability and other things that I'm more worried about. OBJ has a higher ceiling. There it is. This is the point. OBJ's skill ceiling is absolutely higher than Corey Davis, than Allen Lazard, than McCole Hardman, than any of our wide receivers not named Garrett Wilson. Like that's the truth. He is a much better wide receiver right now than all of those guys. The problem is his skill set doesn't necessarily match up 100%. Did Brunson drop 50 tonight for the Knicks? Did I just see that right? Holy crap. 48. Jesus Christ. And the freaking Mavericks let him walk. We weren't going to pay him the money that he got from the Knicks, though. But that's insane, man. Holy crap. It's just, I'm just saying, it's an interesting conversation for sure. Because he does have a higher ceiling, but I do value the run blocking as a massive skill set that comes in there. And can Allen Lazard catch passes? Absolutely. Can Allen Lazard get open? Yeah, absolutely. And so I get what you guys are saying. OBJ, if we're talking about straight up talent as a wide receiver, it should go Garrett Wilson, OBJ, Allen Lazard, and then McCole Hardman and Denzel Mims kind of tied. Like, probably McCole Hardman, then Denzel Mims, like for our wide receiver room. Like, that's a reality of our wide receiver room. It makes a ton of sense if that's the rankings. It's just I don't feel comfortable giving him wide receiver 2 reps. That's the best way to say it. There we go. Harlan in the house. What's going on? Whew. Crazy. Guys, while we're waiting around, if you want to join the Talking Jets with Tigo Navy and become one of Tigo's amigos, boom, we're going to be doing a t-shirt giveaway, a t-shirt jersey giveaway. So any player that the New York Jets draft in this upcoming draft, if you're one of the 15 members that joins, if you're one of the first 15 members, you'll be put in that giveaway. And if you win, you can pick any one of the players drafted by the Jets or not the Jets, if that's really what you want to do. Like if you're a big, I don't know, like if you love some Lucas Van Ness and you want a Lucas Van Ness t-shirt jersey, whatever it is, you get to pick it. I will send it to you, and you can, and that's your thing. Also, we're going to be doing a lot more giveaways for members and the chat, so make sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to do everything. And London Jets fan, I will post it to the UK. I will DHL it over to the UK. It'll take longer, obviously, to get it over if you do win, but yeah, I'll send it over. First 15 members. We're actually at 2. I need to update that. I don't know how to update that. But that being said, if you're one of the first 15 to do it, you get to do it. Boom. Back to the chat. I would love to see 2 tight end stats with Lazard and Davis out wide blocking for Brees. Can you imagine? Like, I was talking about this, Red John. Like, I would also really, really love, like 2 tight end sets with a fullback. You know what I mean? Like, give me, because remember, we re-signed Nick Bawden, and I think he makes the roster, and a lot of people are missing out on this. But, like, Red John, like, imagine CJ Uzomah and, like, Jeremy Ruckert, because I think he might be a better, I don't know. I just want Jeremy Ruckert out in the field, but let's be honest. Tyler Conklin, CJ Uzomah, 2 tight end set. Nick Bawden in the backfield as a fullback. Handing the ball off to Brees, running up the right side with Allen Lazard also there. Who's stopping that? How is that not a touchdown every play? How is that not automatic touchdown every play? How do you tackle? Like, it's just, I don't see how you do it. Oh, I love it. That's a very smart intake about OBJ. You can feature him mainly and more importantly for his own. You can't feature him mainly or more importantly for his own health. Used him as a gadget guy. I'd rather have him healthy for a playoff run than lose him early. That's another good point. This is a great point too. This is also one of the reasons why I am totally on board drafting a wide receiver, a running back. We don't know what Michael Carter is. He had a really bad year last year. Bam Knight fell off hard after being brought in and having that excellent game. Ty Johnson is Ty Johnson, and I like Ty Johnson, but he's not moving the needle in the running back room. And why should we rush back Brees? What sounds better? Brees at 80% rushed back early to help fill our running back room and him never getting to full speed? Or being able to sit Brees for 4 to 8 weeks so that he can get to 100%, and then in the halfway through the season, having Brees come in at 100% when everybody else and the rest of the NFL isn't. I'm telling you, a guy like an Israel Abanikanda, I forget his first name, Gray out of Oklahoma, Rashawn Johnson out of Texas, and by the way, Israel Abanikanda is out of Pitt. If you're telling me one of these running backs in the 4th, the 5th, or the 6th round can come into our scheme and add some kind of extra level to it, and then when Brees comes back, you know what? You can cut Bam, you can cut Ty, you can cut Michael Carter. Like I'm not saying to cut any of these guys, but I'm just saying you can. I'm just saying, man. I love it. I love it. That would be awesome. I'm telling you, dude, imagine the 3 tight ends and Allen Lazard, and then Brees Hall and then here's what you do, right? AVT goes, and then you pull Lake and Tomlinson, and you have the big boys lead the charge. Oh, can you imagine? Oh. If the O-line holds up, it's a TD every time. Every time. Dom, I know everybody has different experiences with different things. I love my Royal Caribbean cruise. I went on one, and it was fantastic. It was a great time. Shows were awesome. The food was awesome. The experience was awesome. Everybody has different experiences with different cruises and stuff like that, but I had a great time. I hope the Bahamas has recovered. That's the real thing that I'm hoping, Dom, because the Bahamas is dope. But last time me and my wife, we went on a cruise. We went on a Royal Caribbean cruise to the Bahamas, and it was right after COVID. You know, it was like right after COVID, and they were in shambles. Now, that was like 2 years ago. But I really hope that it's back, because the Bahamas was one of my favorite ports of call. Like, it was awesome. We're going on a cruise right after the draft. I'm excited. I think Brees will be ready. Red John, here's the thing. London Jets fan has become a member of the chat. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Guys, it costs less than a cup of coffee a month. I appreciate you, London Jets fan. Thank you so much. Welcome to the Talking Jets with Tigo Navy and becoming one of Tigo's amigos. Here's the thing, Red John. I don't want to rush it back. Statistically, and history says that the compounding injury of an ACL and a meniscus tear are serious, and it takes a long time to get back to full speed. And players that were rushed back too soon, guys like Saquon Barkley, guys like J.K. Dobbins, were never at 100% immediately the year after, and they were rushed back. I would not trust Brees Hall and what he says. Sit him. Just sit him. You don't need to rush him back. We're in a position where we totally can draft a running back, or even go get an undrafted free agent running back, or hell, go sign a running back. We're in a position to go get those guys. So, boom. Boom. Which way should the Jets go as far as getting a running back in case Brees has to take time off in case of injury, free agency, or the draft? Here's the thing. It all depends on the money. In a perfect world, like, Kareem Hunt is still out there. You know what I mean? Like, and that's not a question mark of a player. We know he's a guy. We know that he can play at a high level. That being said, wait, let me see if I can highlight this. Hey, I can! London Jets fan, welcome. We know that he can play, but how much money does he want? Can we afford to pay him? Can we do all that stuff? Like, I don't know. But then you look at in the draft. Draft players are going to cost under $1 million. You're going to have control of them for at least 3 years. You can always tender them at the end of those 3 years. If they miss any time or don't hit the 4 years of play time, it's another one of those things, man, where, like, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? I would probably go towards the draft just because our running system is so running back friendly. If you can cut once, like, you're going to be fine. But yeah, I would probably go draft. Get a guy in round 4, 5, or 6, and bring them in. Have control of them for a relatively long time. Especially with guys like, especially when you look at, like, Michael Carter is going into the last couple of years of his deal. Is he worth keeping around on the roster? Like, paying him to keep around on the roster. You know what I mean? I don't know, especially with our running back room. And this is not me not liking Michael Carter. I love me some Michael Carter. It's just a matter of money. You don't pay running backs. And it is easier for you to draft a running back and having him come in. Like, remember that Michael Carter's a 4th-round pick, too. Like, if you can get an Israel Abanikanda in the 4th round, like, there's your Michael Carter replacement. So there you go. That's that. Or, like, our running back room, once our O-line gets fixed, will be okay. Yeah, but, like, we only have 3 guys right now in the running back room because I'm not counting Brees Hall. If I'm Joe Douglas, I'm putting Brees Hall on the IR immediately. like the first moment I can, so that he has to sit out the first 4 weeks. So right now we only have 3 running backs, and Michael Carter missed some time with injury, and now you're looking at like Bam and Ty as being your running back 1, running back 2. If Michael Carter goes down, I'm not super comfortable with that, and so yeah. If we draft a running back, who's getting cut? Well, once Breece gets back, you can cut Ty Johnson like so easily. You can cut any one of those 3 guys. Like, here's the thing. You can cut the worst player of those 3. And I'm pretty sure like it wouldn't be anything insane. Like, you can literally cut. Let me find out. You can cut. Nope, that's Michael Carter II. You can cut Ty Johnson and you get a dead cap hit of $200,000. You can cut Michael Carter and get a dead cap hit of $400,000. And then who's the third one? Where's Bam? I think Bam doesn't even count on the top 51. Yeah, Bam doesn't. You can cut Bam and save and not get $0. Like, that's the thing. Like, you can cut any of these guys and it's not going to be a massive dead cap hit. Now, I'm not saying to cut Michael Carter. I'm not saying to cut Ty Johnson. I'm not saying to cut Bam Knight. But, like, what happens if Michael Carter's sophomore slump isn't just a sophomore slump and it's the rest of the league figuring out what he is as running back? What if he just never recovers? Well, you can cut him. It's only $400,000 of a dead cap hit. That's not a lot of money at all. It doesn't even pay for a player's salary. Like, you can cut Bam Knight for $0. $0 on the cap. He doesn't even, fun fact, Bam Knight doesn't even count towards the cap right now. His salary is so low. Doesn't even count towards the cap. Same thing with Ty. So, yeah. There's the thing. Everyone wants to get rid of Johnson, but the guy's a core special team player. I'm not saying to get rid of Ty. I like Ty. I think he should be on the roster. I like Ty Johnson. He's the only running back in that running back room, not named Breece Hall, that has home run hitting speed and explosiveness. Here's the difference. Breece Hall can create space, make guys miss, and explode. Right? Ty Johnson only explodes. That's it. He can't make guys miss and he can't create space. That's his problem. He truly, truly is a one-cut, get-upfield kind of guy. Now, if you have an offensive line and tight ends and wide receivers blocking properly, if you can create the hole and get Ty to the second level, I think he beats the safety to the edge. You know what I mean? Because the safety's going to chase him down, and Ty is so fast that he beats the safety there every single time. Home run hitting speed. I love him. But there is the concern of, at that point, we would have 5 running backs. We'd have 6 running backs, actually, right? We would have 6 running backs because Nick Bawden is on the roster, and he's going to be on the roster, and he should be on the roster. So now you could tell me, hey, like, you know what? We can stash Kenny Yeboah on the practice squad. But Kenny is a very vital part to the special teams. Like there's a big conversation to be had here when it comes to this running back room, because I do think it is a concern. I don't think it's as easy as everybody makes it, but it is a concern that I have, especially with a guy like Breece Hall, who has the potential to be a top 5 running back in the NFL. Like, that's what he is when he's at 100%. And I want a top 5 running back in the NFL for the playoffs. I don't care about the first 8 weeks. The first 8 weeks, when everyone's still trying to figure it out and Aaron Rodgers is still trying to figure it out, we're going to win games just because we have Aaron Rodgers. Like, I'm just saying. It's interesting. It's interesting. GMB Jeff 021. We're just talking about the running back room. Like, I was talking about, like, I'm concerned about the running backs. That's what we're talking about. Like, Michael Carter had a bad year. Bam Knight fell off the year hard. Ty Johnson is Ty Johnson. I don't want to rush Breece Hall back. I was saying I would feel comfortable with bringing in another wide receiver, whether through free agency or the draft. And then everyone was saying, like, okay, that's like 6 wide receivers that we're now 6 running backs that we're now carrying on the roster. Where are you gonna? And then I was like, okay, so like you could probably get rid of a tight end in Kenny Yeboah and run, a 3 tight end with Nick Bawden. He can also take reps at the tight end position, mainly as a blocker. But then what happens when Brees comes back? You're going to have to cut one of these running backs. And of those 4 running backs, well, really 3 running backs, you're not going to cut a guy the year you draft him. So of the 3 running backs of Ty Johnson, Michael Carter, and Bam Knight, you're going to have to cut one of those guys or try to waive them to stash them on the practice squad. Somebody's going to claim one of those guys probably because you can, every team needs a running back. Yada, 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 yada. And I was saying that it's not out of the realm of the possibility that Michael Carter gets cut because I don't think it's out of the realm of the possibility that Michael Carter's not on this team next year. That's just the reality. So I hope that caught you up. And I made it in a way that you would get mad at me. London Jets fan with his new symbol. That will get better and you will rank up the longer you're a member, London Jets fan. Right now, you're a Seaman recruit and that'll go up. And yeah, so there you go. You know what we were saying? You know what we are saying here, guys? We cut Michael Carter. Never would have thought that last year. Absolutely. And it's a reality this year. One of the things that Jets fans need to understand is that we might have to cut good players. It's the reality. You will lose good players. That's it. How do you become a member, Red John? Underneath the stream, there is a join button. If you hit that join button, it'll take you, and it costs less than a cup of coffee a month if you want to become a member. And yeah, that's how you do that. That's another thing, M. Lopez, welcome to the stream, is the fact that, you know what, Michael Carter has gotten kind of pissy on Twitter and a little... And how much of that is going to affect his gameplay? I don't know. Again, I'm not saying I want to get rid of Michael Carter. I love me some Michael Carter. But if you're going to start throwing these diva tantrums, if you're going to start doing these different things, if you're going to start doing all that stuff, and you're going to try to follow your buddy's footsteps, remember, wide receivers get paid. Running backs don't. What are you going to win from being a diva as a running back? Wide receivers are a dime a dozen. A good wide receiver is hard to come by. A good running back is not. I'm just saying. Michael Carter almost lost his job last year to an undrafted free agent. Arguably did lose his job last year to an undrafted free agent. I'm just saying. That's a testament to how good JD has been when you have to cut good players. Absolutely. Just a friendly reminder, if Zach worked out, we wouldn't be in this position. Don't shoot the messenger. Thanks. No, Wild Wave, you're absolutely right. And here's, if we hired the right coordinator from San Francisco, Zach would have worked out. Imagine we have Mike McDaniel and not Mike LaFleur. I'm just saying. Imagine we brought the right coordinator. Oh, Shane, I'm not comparing it to Elijah Moore's situation. No. That's not what I was trying to say. If that's how it came across, that's not what I'm trying to say. Or that's not what I was trying to imply. I was just saying he started getting pissy on Twitter. It's nowhere near the level of what Elijah Moore did, requesting a trade in the middle of a win streak. I'm sorry if that's how it came across. That's not what I was trying to do at all. I'd keep MC for his rookie contract and let him walk in free agency and maybe score a comp pick if he doesn't help the team. Here's the thing. I don't think he would help out the comp pick formula at all either. Let me find his contract. He's got one more year on his contract. He's got next year on his contract. So you would bring him in. He's under contract this year and then you would bring him in next year. So I don't know if he would help on the comp formula, but yeah. What are you doing for the draft? Well, day one of the draft, the first round, I will be doing live reactions and immediate... First of all, Red John, thank you for the super chat. Super chats skips the line, all of that stuff. Boom. What am I going to be doing for the draft? So for day one of the draft, I'll be doing immediate live reactions, takes, and all of those things. Those videos will be posted the moment after the pick is made, and specifically for the Jets. I won't be live streaming or doing anything like that. I'll be hanging out in the Jets panel, the Jets Talk 24/7 draft panel and all of that stuff, and having that conversations or being in the chat there and then posting the video of my live reaction there. Day two of the draft, I will be hanging out with the guys at Jets Talk 24/7, Green Bean, Matt O'Leary, and obviously Ryan. And I'll be there. And then day three of the draft, I'll actually be traveling. I've got a cruise. So the week after the draft, all the player comps and breakdowns are all going to be cruise videos. So I'm excited for that. And yeah, it's going to be fun. What about Wilson not liking the way Moore was traded? Well, like, you have to remember that they're friends. Like, you also have to remember that Garrett Wilson also kind of started being a diva at the end of the year there too. You know what I mean? Like, Garrett Wilson doesn't come away scot-free. Throwing his hands in the air and showing all that frustration and doing all those things, like, it wasn't professional. He was throwing hissy fits on the field, and it was a problem. And, like, with good reason, he was going for the Offensive Rookie of the Year award, blah, 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 and all that stuff. But, yeah. Would JD flip MC for another pick? That is an option. You could flip MC for another pick. Like, but the real thing is what pick would you... Like, you'd be getting a 7th rounder back for Michael Carter. There's that. I'm starting to think maybe trading MC is the way to go. He doesn't have any value that's worth it right now. Like, here's my thing, right? Like, you would get him for a 6th or a 7th round pick. That's not worth it. Just keep Michael Carter. He's a good running back. Like, that's it. Brees Lightning has run under 4.39 for a 215, 225 pound back. His special awareness and contact balance is obscene. You are totally correct. You're totally right. Want to see another guy that just shouldn't have that much speed, shouldn't have that much contact? And I'm not saying he's as good as Brees Hall, but he has very similar numbers. Go watch the highlights from Pitt's Pro Day, right? Go watch the Pitt Pro Day and go see how fast Israel Abanikanda ran. That's true. That's what I'm saying. I was going to get to that Tin Star, and then I got sidetracked. My ADHD took over. This is true. What Tin Star is saying. What you're missing is these guys were building a brotherhood. They actually liked each other and enjoyed playing with each other. That's absolutely true. I totally gloss over this part. They were friends. I'm not saying that Garrett Wilson's concerns or should be a concern. No. But you also, like, you can mention one thing about the player. Like, Garrett Wilson is an excellent wide receiver, but he also needs to grow up and mature more, right? Because it doesn't matter what's happening. You don't air out your dirty laundry on the field like that. That's not what you do. You don't show your frustration on the field like that, because that's how you let people get into your head. That's how you start taking plays off. That's when you got to be in the moment 100%, and you have to be next play, next play, next play, next play. Like, it doesn't matter. You have to be the guy who's willing to overcome the deficiencies of the rest of your team. So while you're absolutely right, they were friends. They liked playing with each other. They hung out outside of the facility and texted and did things together. And that's probably all true. And you might not like the fact that your friend got moved and sent somewhere else. That being said, you can still also, like, grow up a little, and you don't have to throw hissy fits on the field. And that's my take there. Since moving from Houston to Michigan, my 3rd year, I spend with the 3 amigos, Ryan, Matt, and Master Green Beans. When I lived in New York, Spanish Harlem, we would have a draft party at my brother's. Yeah, man, I do. I watch the whole draft, every pick of the draft. And I'm going to, like I said, I have a lot of draft content planned. And Red John is right. Cruise Wi-Fi does suck, so the videos are going to take a while to come up. But we also, like, I have my phone, so we're getting the phone Wi-Fi. We're going to Grand Cayman and to the Disney private island. And so they actually have really good Wi-Fi there. So we've got plans for the content to like come out. And I'm going to try, because I'll be there for days 1 and 2 of the draft, I'm going to try to do as much content as possible about days 1 and 2, the Jets picks, the things like that, and really breaking down those guys so that like the week of the draft, I won't necessarily miss that wave, and then I can come back and hit the ground strong. That's the same thing with Moore. His value wasn't there except his potential of what he could be, which is why the trade with the Browns was a fair trade. Yeah. The moment he had the bust up with Saleh, he was toast. And was it Saleh or was it Mike LaFleur? Professionalism isn't valued these days, and make excuses for poor attitude. These dudes have media training, but yet make demands so early in life without proving themselves. And I'm not throwing, like, this is a Denzel Moore thing. Denzel Moore. Who is Denzel Moore? Make it make sense. Who's Denzel Moore? Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore is one of those guys that, like you didn't do anything. You had a good first year, and then you didn't do anything in your second year. Eli Mims, there it is. M. Lopez, love it. So it was just like, Elijah Moore is an elite talent. It went wrong with the Jets, but it doesn't change that fact. Kid gets open at will. 100%. He's one of the quickest human beings I've ever seen. And I'm not talking about his speed, because he is also one of the fastest human beings. I'm talking about quick. Like his 3-cone drill at Ole Miss, because that was the COVID year, holy crap. Holy crap. That guy is good. Like, he is good. Eli Mims. Love it. Yep. Told Mike LaFleur to go F himself. Crazy, crazy day. Crazy dude. Can't be doing that stuff, man. Can't be doing that stuff. Blows my mind. We were all infatuated with Eli Moore, and I almost bought his jersey. Dude, I had the audacity. I had the audacity to say that I think even with Garrett Wilson drafted, I thought that Elijah Moore was going to be wide receiver 1 on this team, and that he was going to end this year being the best wide receiver in the AFC East. I said that. I said he was going to be better than Stephon Diggs, better than, this was before the Tyreek Hill trade, but I loved, and I still do, Elijah Moore's potential and his thing. But you don't cause a dust-up when you're on a win streak, man. You can't do that. Can't do that. And Rob V, I disagree. I'm not an Addison guy. Not an Addison guy at all. Think he's good. Think he'll be good at the NFL. I think Elijah Moore's better than Addison. Taking your child on the cruise you get up early with? Absolutely, sir. We are. That's why we're going on the cruise. My parents took my niece. My parents have this thing where, so like, it's me and my sister, and my mom has this thing where anything that she does for me, she does for my sister. Anything that she does for my sister, she does for me, so on and so forth. Well, my sister had our niece like 3 years ago. M. Lopez149, thank you for subscribing. She does anything that she does for me, blah, 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 boom. All of that being said, when you look at, when she was about to turn 1 year old, they took her on a Disney cruise so that they could do that, because my family, we like cruising. We live in Florida. It's really easy. And so she thought, well, let's do the same thing. We're going to take Ben to a cruise on his first year, and boom. So that's where we're going. We're going on a Disney cruise. I find it funny how all 3 of the receivers from Ole Miss are diva and controversial in the NFL. Dude, it makes me think twice about taking wide receivers from Ole Miss. Isn't there a Mingo is coming out of Ole Miss, right? I have to look up a big board. Isn't Mingo the wide receiver out of Ole Miss in this draft? And it's just like, ooh, I don't know. I don't know if I like this. Where is he? Yeah, Mingo, yeah. It's like, who knows, man? Harlan always doing the shameless plugs for me. If you're unaware, we have merch, Talking Just with Tigo merch in the description below. If you click on it's like there's a donation button, because I used to have that before I had super chats. And if you do donate, it interrupts the whole stream. It's better than a super chat. We talk about it, we highlight it, and Most YouTube doesn't take half the money. So if you really want to support me, that's the way to do it. I won't bring that up again. But I have mugs. I have t-shirts. We're going to add more stuff coming soon. That's in the description below. And Harlem Abraham has my mug. I lost it for Elijah Moore when he couldn't bother to get both feet in bounds 5 feet from the sideline. Either a lack of football IQ or he was just dogging it. It's a good one. Addison's going to be a beast, guarantee you. Define beast, right? Because he'll be a really good high-end wide receiver too, in my opinion. Ole Miss wide receiver diva school, 100%. Addison scares me. Very good wide receivers with sub 9-inch hands. It's one of the most important measurements to predict success at wide receiver. I think when you're as quick, as Addison is, I think he's going to be an excellent separator at the next level. He's going to be able to create space. I really worry about how slender his frame is. He's really lanky, and maybe that the hand size is a concern. I haven't heard that concern. I just think his skill set really, give me a sec. I think his skill set is really built for, being in the slot and being like a Z, and you don't really get a ton of production. Or you can, you know what I mean? Look at Jalen Waddle. But those guys don't tend to be the high production guys. Your slots, your Fs, your Zs, and those things. What does Tigo Giveaway 2 mean? Well, Dark Soldier, if you become a member of the Tigo Navy, we have 2 members right now. Well, 3 members right now. If you become a member of the Tigo Navy, and you can join by hitting the join button down below, and it costs less than a cup of coffee a month, I will be giving away a t-shirt jersey of any player drafted in this upcoming draft. And yeah. You know what? Let's change this. Goal. I'll do that later. Boom. So there you go. If I was going to draft any receiver, it would be the Spartan Jaden Reed. Interesting. I love me some Zay Flowers. I think Zay Flowers is insanely good. And then if I'm drafting a wide receiver, this is the guy that I kind of have my man crush with this year. I'm kind of infatuated with him a little bit, is Andre Ayoshivas out of Princeton. Really, really raw prospect, obviously, but he is 6'3", 200 pounds, and runs and is just insanely fast. He was supposed to run a sub 4.3 40 at the combine, but everyone was running slow at the combine for some reason. But yeah. Look it up. Hand size has major correlation with success at wide receiver. Only Tyler Lockett and Will Fuller have had success from the past 10 drafts with hands that small. Pickens could make it 3. I didn't know Pickens had small hands. Look at that. Crap. How good is the talent in this draft overall? What position is it deep with? Okay, the best way to look at this or to answer this question, M. Lopez, is this draft class sucks. Okay? This draft class is atrocious. And that's me being a little bit facetious here. It doesn't suck, but it's a bad draft class. It is not super high-level talent. There are maybe 2 or 3 blue-chip prospects in this whole draft. I only have, I think 13 or 14 first-round grades in this draft, in the sense of, players that, would be first-round picks regardless of what I want to see or what I want to, again, the best way that I look at it is this player a first-round pick last year? Is this player a first-round pick the year before that. And that's how I kind of go with my first round grades is like, is this guy worthy of the first round pick, or is this guy going to get a first round pick because there's no other option? You know what I mean? And so this year's draft class, absolutely garbage when it comes to all of those things. And M. Lopez, you're absolutely right. There's a bunch of Eli Mims in this draft. No. But here's the thing. There's not a blue chip prospect. There's like a couple of them. But none of these guys and in this draft are going to be, in my opinion, competing for Offensive Rookie of the Year. None of these guys are going to be competing for, Offensive Player of the Year or Defensive Player of the Year in their entire careers. The only one that might do it is Jalen Carter. He is the only guy that has a true round one first round grade. If he was in last year's draft, he would have been a top 5 pick in last year's draft. Straight up. And like the quarterbacks, because last year's quarterback class was atrocious and this year's quarterback class is better. But again, none of these guys are like studs, and I'm talking about in the whole draft. The guys that I like in this draft that have first round grades in this draft are the 4 quarterbacks: Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Will Levis, and Anthony Richardson. Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, Devin Witherspoon, Tyree Wilson, Christian Gonzalez, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Peter Skoronski, Kalijah Cansey, Broderick Jones, and I think that's it. Those are the only guys that as of right, and Brian Branch are the only guys I have first-round grades on. Oh, and then Bijan Robinson, but I don't put Bijan because he's a running back. Southern Jet, thank you for subscribing. I don't count running backs as like first-round prospects. Like, you shouldn't take a running back in the first round. He will be taken in the first round, but like I'm not a fan of doing that. But yeah. Jalen Carter would have been the number 1 overall pick last year. Wild Wave, you're absolutely correct. But I would really have to go down and like write my list down because I don't have it in front of me. I have it in my notebook, which is in the living room. But yeah, that's interesting. What do you think of Nolan Smith out of Georgia? Ed rusher, ran a 4.39 at the combine, small at 238 pounds. But what an athlete. Do we draft him? Absolutely not. We shouldn't be drafting a guy like that. One, because there's a lot of question marks there. He needs to put on a ton of weight. What is he at the next level? Is he a linebacker? Is he an edge rusher? Is he an outside linebacker? Like, what is he going to do in this draft? Like, what is his position? What is his position going to be at the next level? We have no idea. And that's the concern here, London Jet fan. And that's where we got to have that. Going back to that question before, where is this class deep? This class is deep at edge rusher, cornerback, probably tight end, wide receiver. There's a lot of guys that, again, there's no superstar talent in those rooms outside of none of them in none of those rooms. I love me some Christian Gonzalez at the cornerback room, but the tight ends have the opportunity. There's like 3 or 4 guys that could be superstars. Darnell Wright, Dalton Kincaid, Michael Mayer. Oh, if we had an opportunity to draft Michael Mayer, I would do it. I love that kid. I know it makes no sense. We don't have a roster spot for him, but I love that kid. But yeah. Red John, how do we get Jermaine Johnson more snaps? Trade or cut Carl Lawson? Unfortunately. That's it. Oh, Vervain is right too. Running back, insanely. Stupid deep at running back. Yeah, cut Carl Lawson. I hate saying that because I want Carl Lawson on this team, but that's the only way he's going to get more snaps. And now I'm going to get a bunch of people, Rob V probably included, yelling at me, move JFM on the inside. Absolutely not. He shouldn't play on the inside. He is infinitely better as an edge rusher, and the only reason he should be moved inside is on third downs so that he can pass rush from the inside. He should be on the outside most of his snaps, and that's the reality of it. Again, none of these wide receivers, well, if Will Anderson came out last year, he might have been the first edge taken over Aiden Hutchinson. But because this year was so poor from him and we saw him be really bad this year, I agree with you. Like, if we take this year out of it and say, for some reason he can declare last year, maybe. Nolan Smith is a linebacker at the NFL level. He's a will linebacker who can cover and blitz. I find it humorous how draft nicks are downgrading Bulldogs. Again, it's not about he's still gonna be taken in the first round. I just don't know. Do you have him put on weight? Like you said, he's light. Right? He plays at 240. Okay. Do you have him put on 20 pounds and be an edge rusher? Like an outside linebacker type of edge rusher? Do you have him lose 10 or 20 pounds and be a linebacker? That's what I don't know. I don't know what that skill set for him is gonna be. And that's where I have my concern with him. But I love him as an athlete. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. I don't think he's going to be a bust 10 star, but what I will say is this. I don't think he's going to be as good as everybody thinks that he is. The way when I look at him, you know what I think? He's like an 8 to 10 sack guy a year. He's never going to be the primary edge rusher. He's never going to be the superstar guy on a defensive line. But he's also going to be the guy that if he goes down, you miss his ability. You're going to miss that he's there and his playmaking skills. There you go. That's the way that I look at it. I agree with Nolan Smith as a linebacker. Reminds me of Melvin Ingram, who we should have taken over Copels. A lot of players we should have taken over a lot of other players. Michael Clemens, scary dude, heat-seeking missile. He needs more snaps as well. For real. Yeah. Yeah, man. It's an interesting Vernon Golston. Wow, guys, we're having a good time. Why are we gonna depress ourselves here? Why are we going to depress ourselves? Come on. We're here to be happy. We're here to have a good time. Oh, man. So how's everyone's week going, man? Is everyone just tired of the Aaron Rodgers hullabaloo and all that stuff as I am? Let me ask the chat. Who's your number one quarterback in this draft? What are you guys thinking? Some of you who are here know mine, who I have as a number one quarterback in this draft. What do you guys have? Vervain with the CJ Stroud. Interesting. You know what? What am I doing? I'm an idiot. Oh, crap. Oops. Give me a second. Pop out chat. Boom. Okay. And let me refresh this. I should get a new chat. And that should be boom. Start a poll. Who is QB1? Let's go. AR-15. CJ Stroud. Will Levis. Bryce Young. All right, boom. The poll is up. Vote in the poll. What do you think it is? What are we thinking? Who we got here? Let me know. And then M. Lopez, I see your super chat. Not super chat, but I see your question. I'll answer it in a second. Hey, don't be sending people to the Shadow Realm willy-nilly. I will take your wrench away. Especially not members of the channel. Come on, guys. At least let him defend himself. All right. I know. I'm just saying. I can see it. I'm not saying that you sent anybody. Everybody, we got what? We got 22 votes. Dang, a lot of you. 22. 69% of you, nice, said that you have CJ Stroud as number 1. Bryce Young is number 2. Anthony Richardson is number 3. And Will Levis with 0 votes. Interesting. I do too. I want to know what this breaking news is too. I'm on Twitter. I don't see anything. We'll see. So I disagree with all of you. I have Will Levis as my number 1 prospect. It's just the truth. Come on, London Jets fan. Can't be doing that stuff. I have Will Levis as my number 1 quarterback. If I was the Carolina Panthers, I would take Will Levis number 1 overall. I think Frank Reich and his skill set and his skill as a coach can turn him into that guy. I think he has all of the talent in the world. He's got a howitzer of an arm. He played at the most pro-ready system in college, had to deal with a horrible transition at offensive coordinator, horrible supporting cast around him. But fundamentally, I think he's solid. And of the guys here, has the best potential of hitting his ceiling. CJ Stroud has the lowest ceiling but the highest floor. Bryce Young weighs 85 pounds. And Anthony Richardson is the biggest, question mark of the draft. He can either be Josh Allen or he can either be Hackenberg. We have no idea what he's going to be. And now, I am not saying to take him number 1 overall. They should take CJ Stroud, knowing that CJ Stroud is going to be a limited quarterback, right? You're taking Kirk Cousins number 1 overall. I think CJ can be better than Kirk, but you get what I'm saying. You're taking a limited quarterback, number 1 overall. But he has the highest likelihood of being a good quarterback and being an NFL quarterback, and that's why you take him. So, yep. I like me some Will Levis. I know that's a hot take. I know that it is. But I like me some Will Levis. The only team that should draft him number 1 would be Carolina, and that's because of Frank Reich. I trust Frank Reich with Will Levis. That's the point I guess I'm trying to make. But yeah. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. What does the wrench mean? It means you're a mod. Who do you draft at 13? If Broderick Jones is available, I'm taking Broderick Jones. He's the guy that I think you probably have to take, in my opinion. That's the guy I'm taking. If Milano spears Bryce Young the same way Mike White got hit. First of all, Wild Wave, Mike White's hit was totally clean. That is the textbook definition of a clean hit. Textbook definition of a clean hit. And that being the case, absolutely, you're right on the second half. If he got hit, dude, he's 90 pounds soaking wet carrying his offensive lineman's pads. I can't trust a guy who's under a $180 at my quarterback position. Ohio State's QBs haven't been successful in the NFL. I don't care about any of that stuff. Honestly, Harlan. I think that that's such an overblown and overrated, like, oh, look at this school. Hasn't had a track record of being successful. Well, then, like, why do we have all these programs? Like, if you can only draft Alabama and Georgia kids, you know what I mean? Like, that's my point. But yeah. Look, I never said, you said it was dirty. I was just clarifying for the rest of the chat that might have thought that what you were saying was that you were saying what you weren't saying about it being dirty. We'll see about Caleb. He's got another year to do it. I, right now, am a bigger fan of the UNC kid. Right now, over Caleb. Drake May. I like me some Drake May, but we'll see what Caleb is and what he turns into. The feeling that all 3 tackles will be gone. I don't think so. I don't think a lot of people are going to be super. I think Broderick Jones isn't ready to start. I disagree with that, John Nolte. I don't think that he is a good QB. I think he's a good running back. Yes, Vervain, you're totally right. I prefer May, but they're both studs. You're totally right. But this being said, Broderick Jones is going to be a guy that is definitely going to be considered a project with a lot of teams and might not be worthy of taking if you need a guy that needs to start now. You know? I would not be surprised if a guy like Anton Harrison, Darnell Wright go before Broderick Jones. Or like even before Peter Skoronski. So, yeah. And here's the other part, right? Rob V, Wild Wave with it. I don't know if the Titans or the Raiders are taking an offensive tackle. The more I look at the big board and the more I look at their team, I have a hard time saying that they're not going to go edge, both of them. I have a hard time saying that they might like that. Like, I'm not saying they would both go edge, but I have a hard time looking at that team. Like, if you're the Raiders, like, you need defensive help. Your defense is what loses you games. Their offensive line, like, they need a guard more than they need a tackle in Vegas. So, like, if Peter Skoronski is there, that's a place that they're going to go. Like, that makes a ton of sense, them going Peter Skoronski. And I don't think that the New York Jets are going to consider Skoronski a tackle, so I'll give you that. But the Titans just lost Bud Dupree. And yes, they lost Taylor Lewan, but they're kind of used to not having Taylor Lewan. They might look at it and say, like, this defense is our stud. Like, let's get better on the defensive side of the ball. I have them penciled in right now as taking an edge. Now, the Bears, Paris Johnson Jr. is already in Chicago, in my opinion. He already lives there. Think he's already living there. And Rob V, the Texans don't need a right tackle. They have what's his name? The guy who lines up next to Laramie on the other side of Laramie Tunsil. Now, I don't believe in him at all at a tackle. Titus Howard, but they have Howard. You know? And they just brought in Mason. So, really, they need a center. They're a scarier pick for a center. Like, at 33, or 34, that's what I'm concerned is. Are they going to take the center that the Jets want at 42, at 33, because they desperately need a center? Like, desperately. Desperately. So, there's that. You think the Texans are going to go quarterback tackle? Where are they going to play him? Where are they going to play this new tackle, Rob V? They just signed Tunsil to a massive deal. They have Howard, who is an average tackle. They just traded for Shaq Mason to play their right guard. They drafted in the first round last year Kenyon Green to be their left guard. The only position that they need is center. And I'm not saying that they're taking a center at 12. I said center at 34. Said center at 34. They're a team that might take a center in front of the Jets at 34 so that we can't take our guy at 42. That's what I said. Okay? But why would they take a tackle, especially when D'Amico just came in? Okay, I understand that you're talking about 12, Rob. I am too. I don't think they take a tackle at 12. Where is he going to play? Look at that offensive line. Where are they going to play him? Remembering that they spent a first-round pick last year on a guard, and they traded it for a guard, and they signed Laramie Tunsil. I would have been with you because I thought they were going to trade away Laramie Tunsil. I thought that was going to happen, so then they were going to take a tackle to replace Laramie Tunsil. Wide receiver at 12 makes a ton of sense, Wild Wave said. I still think it's an edge rusher. I think that's where Nolan Smith or... Like, Nolan Smith at 12 actually makes a ton of sense. Because if he's going to be an edge, all that stuff. Cansey could go at 12. That makes sense if they're going to pay him at an edge. Remember that they just paid Sheldon Rankins a crap ton of money? You know, there's that. Nolan Smith actually there makes a ton of sense. Nolan Smith makes a ton of sense. I've decided I want Kalijah at 13, plus he's a good kid, but if the criminal falls to us, then I might just risk it. He's not a criminal. He got civil suits. Jesus Christ, it was a misdemeanor. He didn't kill the guys. Dude, I think the Eagles are going to take Bijan at 10. I know this is crazy, but I think Bijan is an Eagle at 10. They don't have very many needs. Somehow they were able to bring back everybody. Will Anderson, still Carter because he won't be facing any jail time. Tyree Wilson or Nolan Smith, possibly both, at least on tackle, and possibly Christian Gonzalez. Only to the Lions, though. What is this in regards to? Oh, who's going in the top 10? Red John. This is a great question. 4 quarterbacks. You're going to see 4 quarterbacks. Christian Gonzalez, Jalen Carter, 4 quarterbacks, Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, Christian Gonzalez, Tyree Wilson, Paris Johnson Jr., and that's the only guys that I can confirm that are going to go in the top 10. Because the Eagles are an enigma, wrapped in a mystery, wrapped in a burrito, with a permanent marker question mark written on that burrito. We have no idea what the Eagles are going to do. Because the Eagles can take Kalijah Cansey. The Eagles can take Nolan Smith. The Eagles can take Peter Skoronski. They can take Brian Branch. They can take Lucas Van Ness. They can go literally... They can take Jackson Smith, and they can take Bijan. They can go literally in any direction. We have no idea what they're going to do. And the more I think about it, Peter Skoronski at 10 actually makes a ton of sense. Wow, I didn't think of that. Remember, they lost Suemolo. But they took Jurgens last year. Cam Jurgens, right? In the draft. Yeah, they took him in the second round last year. Oh, I have no idea. Landon Dickerson is pretty good for them as a guard. Dude, I'm telling you, I think the Eagles take Bijan. Why not? Is Bijan or JSN, man? It makes a ton of sense for them to take one of those guys. I have no idea what they're going to do. Yeah, man. Like, why not? The Eagles are picking at 10, London Jets fan. Why wouldn't they? Say, screw it. Mess with everybody's draft board. Help the Jets out by not letting Bijan go to Buffalo. But yeah, man. It's an interesting conversation. Definitely an interesting. This draft is going to be a fun one. Because like, there's so many teams that can go literally in a million different directions. But he's not going to split time with other running backs, Red John. What other running backs on the roster are going to be better than Bijan? Like, who's going to take his snaps away? Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell, Rashad Penny. Like, if Bijan goes in there, he's running back 1. Actually, technically, he's running back 2 behind Jalen Hurts. Eagles probably go trenches. It's what they do, especially if they can grab a guy like Gibbs in the back end of the first. Yeah, I don't think Jahmyr Gibbs goes in the first. They'll just wait. I would not be surprised if they went like Kalijah Cansey or Jalen Carter at 10 if Jalen Carter was there. And then like they have the 31st pick. And then if at 31 they went like John Michael Schmitz. Like that wouldn't surprise me. Just double up the trenches. You don't need the DT. You don't need the center. But next year you will. Like Fletcher Cox isn't going to be here past this year. So get his replacement in Kalijah Cansey. Travis Kelce's on a 1-year deal. He's not going to be here past this year. Get his replacement. And like, yeah, you have Cam Jurgens, but like he's probably going to play right guard this year. So like let him just play right guard and just get guys that you'll have 5th-year options on at positions that are going to be needs next year, because the only position of need that they really have this year is linebacker, probably. Wide receiver 3, probably. Yeah. Why wouldn't the Eagles take Branch and start him at free safety? Because Brian Branch is a strong safety. And because Blankenship played well last year, and they signed safety Terrell Edmonds, who also played well next year. Yeah, Rob V's right here. He's a strong safety, not a free safety. Losing C.J. Gardner-Johnson wasn't a big deal for that team. Like, I said this in a previous draft or in a previous video, but I think C.J. Gardner-Johnson was the worst player on that defense last year. Like, I think hands down was the worst player. Like, starting guys, the starting 11, he was the worst defensive player on that team. Now, I'm not saying that he's a bad player, but I'm just saying, like, his contributions to the team weren't, like, to that defense, weren't that insane. Yeah, had a great playoffs. Like, again, I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm just saying his contributions to that team, they had the second best cornerback duo in the NFL in Bradbury and Slay, and somehow they brought them both back. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Come on. They had a great linebacker tandem. Both of those guys got paid. You know, I'm just saying. That's what happened. Broderick Jones to the Eagles kind of makes sense. Sit behind Lane Johnson and take over next year. I would just bring back Lane Johnson. Right? Is that contract expiring for him? Yeah, no. Lane Johnson signed until forever. Lane Johnson signed until 2027. Nope. And you can't cut him. Yeah, they can't get out from under Lane Johnson's contract. I thought you were onto something, man. I was going to be with you. That would make a lot of sense, but nope. Let's see if Mailata's under contract. Yeah, Mailata's under contract for the next 3 years. He's under contract till 2025. Can't get rid of him either. Yeah, they're not going anywhere. I thought this was a good idea, Wild Wave. It's not. How the Cowboys have issues to solve. They need to draft well. Yeah, but as long as Jerry Jones is running it, they're going to take the wide receiver in the first round every time. Yeah, they brought back everyone on the D-line. Dude, they literally only lost their linebackers. And the least important part of their team's the safeties. Like, it's insane. It's insane. Nope. Lane Johnson, according to Spotrac, has a contract that keeps him as a Philadelphia Eagle until 2027. And then he's got 3 void years on the back of that, technically keeping him on the team until 2030. Boom. Does the Jets defense worry anyone else besides me? What worries you, Tin Star? Be specific. What worries you about this defense? Because I'm not worried. Outside of the defensive tackle spot, I'm not worried about a single spot on this defense. Outside of defensive tackle, I think we're solid literally everywhere else. We were able to manufacture the number 2 defense in the NFL last year, and the only key player that we lost was Sheldon Rankins. Of like the core group of guys that really helped. We're good at linebacker and at safety. I don't understand people's fear of the linebacker position or the safety position. We don't need a free safety. We're not going to be in the free safety market. We're probably not drafting a free safety. The New York Jets have 5 safeties under contract right now. 5. 6 if you count Michael Carter II as a safety. Because some people count that slot corner as a safety spot, not as a corner spot. I don't. We have 5. Chuck Clark is that dude. Jordan Whitehead, second year in the system, is probably going to get better and probably not going to ask to be playing strong safety. Tony Adams, watch back his tape. He was surprisingly good last year. Will Parks is surprised me last year as well. I'm just saying, like, what do you mean none of them are any good? Jordan Whitehead was arguably a better free safety last year when he played deep than LaMarcus Joyner. That's a fact. He was pretty good in coverage last year, outside of the dropping interceptions thrown right at his chest. So he's not going to be playing strong safety. So there's that. Chuck Clark is going to improve our strong safety. So there's that. CJ Mosley and Quincy Williams were our dynamic duo in the linebacker room last year. Whitehead was bad tackling. That's what he was bad at. Not anything else, Rob. That's it, Tin Star. You're right. He can't tackle. So how do you stop him from tackling? Play him as the deep safety. Play him single high. Play him in coverage where he doesn't have to tackle. He has to stop passes from being caught. He was good at that last year. I'm just saying. I'm not worried about our safety room at all. Like, I get why you guys are, but okay, then Jordan Whitehead doesn't play. I really like Tony Adams. I think they chose to keep Tony Adams over Jason Pinnock for a reason. And when he was on the field, when LaMarcus Joyner wasn't, he looked better. I think Tony Adams is going to be a stud. Just watch out. I really do. I think they bring back Quan. I think Quan is going to Houston. I don't think we're going to be able to afford Quan at his new contract demands. Our defense was this good without having any support from the offense. I don't see how having more time to recover makes them worse. That's my point, dude. Tigo, we can't cover tight ends. What do you mean? Need a cover linebacker and a free safety. What do you mean we can't cover tight ends? That's literally what Will Parks is for. Will Parks was brought in to cover tight ends. And we did it relatively well once we started using him in that role. Once we stopped using linebackers to cover tight ends and we used Will Parks to cover tight ends, we did well. We started doing that well. The back half of our year, we like, what after the bye, what defensive performance did we have a bad defensive performance in? That's a different conversation, M. Lopez. That's a different conversation. And you're totally right. I totally agree with you. We do need to stop the run better. But like, after we come off the bye, what tight ends, and the bye is so important because that's when we started using Will Parks there. What tight end really was eating us for breakfast, lunch, and or dinner? This is true. I agree with this. We do need to stop the run. Like, Vikings game, they got 33 yards out of there. The Bills, Dawson Knox got 41 yards. The Lions game. You're talking about that one play? It was one play. Yeah, you're talking about the 51-yard one play, right? That was one play. Like, okay, we got caught out on one play. He got one reception for 51 yards and a touchdown. I'm just saying. We lost because of one tight end. I'm just saying. I don't disagree with you, but we kind of fixed that. If we look at tight ends, tight ends aren't eating us alive a lot. Now, the Jags game was the game I was hoping no one would bring up. The Jags game was the game because Evan Ingram went 7 catches for 113 yards. That's a problem. That was a problem. But every other game, we held tight ends down. Like, tight ends weren't doing anything against us. We were doing really, really well. Problem is we couldn't score points. We couldn't score points at all. That's the real problem. Our defense was fine last year. We led the league in points. Was it led the league or number 2 in the league? I don't remember what it was. But we led the leagues in fewest points allowed, like as a defense. The problem is we couldn't score 3 points. We got a total of 9 points in the last 3 games. Who's not a tight end? Isn't Evan Ingram a tight end? Am I wrong here? Am I going crazy? Evan Ingram's a tight end. Am I going crazy here? 10-star, what are you talking about? We got picked apart in the middle of the field against the Lions, Jags, and Seahawks, but I think it was because of the defense being on the field too much caught up to them. I think it was, one, I think part of that is because of our linebackers. You're absolutely right. And I think a part of that is because of like Quincy's inabilities in coverage. But like, even with that being said, even with all of that, with our linebacker room being, and here's the thing, our linebacker room didn't get worse. Losing Quan isn't that big of a loss. It is, and he can still come back. But losing Quan isn't that big of a loss that everything is horrible. But, like, I really like Jamie and Sherwood. When CJ Mosley went down for those snaps, he was arguably our best linebacker out there. Like, even over Quan and Quincy and all those guys. I think Jamie can play and can play really, really well. I'm excited to see that. Oh, you're talking about, like, I got it. Evan Ingram is like Mike Gesicki in the sense that they're not actually tight ends. They're just big wide receivers. Like Kyle Pitts, he's not actually a tight end. He's just a big wide receiver. We Plane. Welcome to the chat. Hit the sub button if you're new. Welcome. Thanks for hanging out. Jennifer Canonigo. Crossing patterns killed us last year. Absolutely. Absolutely. But again, even with crossing patterns being a problem, which are always going to be a problem with our defense and the way that we play defense, even with all of that being said, we still held teams to 17 points. I'm just saying. Defense is super overrated. No good defense finishes last place for creating turnovers. It was average at best. Turnovers aren't everything, man. Like, turnovers aren't everything. Like, yes, it's nice to get turnovers, but like ultimately the defense's job is to not score to not let the other team score points, and that's what our defense did. We didn't let other guys score points. That's it. Exactly. And our defense, we're a bend don't break defense. With the cover 3 scheme, the middle of the field is going to be open. They may have to switch up coverages. Yeah. We're not going to ever switch up coverage. We're going to tend to play those types of cover 3 shells more often, just because of the way we use our front score, our front four. But you're right, Guy. The middle of the field, especially like in the seams, they're going to be open. Those are going to be the liabilities. And you know that facing up against us. We try to overcome that with an elite pass rush. And that's what we did last year. You know, we overcome the fact that, one, we have elite corners that can stick to wide receivers really, really well, and then we're going to get to you. Now, David, this is a different conversation. You're absolutely right. And we didn't score 16 points. We were barely able to score 3 points. This is a completely different conversation, right? We couldn't score more than 6 points the last 3 weeks of the year. This is a totally different conversation. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers and this offense will cover up a lot of the defensive deficiencies anyway. And it's not about covering up defensive deficiencies. Can our offense score 20 points a game with Aaron Rodgers? Well, I sure hope so, because if not, why are we trading for him? Right? Our defense needs a 0 who more than a run. What? Tinstar, can you try again? I'm so confused with this one. Defense was probably better than most think if we had a competent offense. Dude, if you look at DVOA, which to me I think is the best like stat measurement tool for like overall like defenses and offenses. If we look at DVOA, the New York Jets were the number 2 defense last year behind only the Eagles. Like, that's it. Now, if we match that with offense, we were the 7th worst offense according to DVOA. It matters. Oh, because of the playoffs, the Jets fell to number 5 in DVOA. We were top 5 defense. So yeah. My point is the defense would be on the field way less, way better field position, things like that. 100%. 100%. Hopefully our defense won't be on the field for 75% of the game next year. It's a miracle they finish top 5. Yep, that too. All that playing time and nobody getting picks or strip sacks or fumble recoveries would have helped the offense getting the ball back a few extra times. I don't think it would have, David, because I don't think we were going to score with Mike White throwing the ball. Like, we couldn't score. We got to the red zone like 15 times and we couldn't get a freaking touchdown against Minnesota, who had an atrocious defense. If they had a couple of extra possessions, you're talking about maybe a couple of extra field goals, not extra touchdowns. Let's not sugarcoat what our offense did last year. And, like, come on, David. Don't sugarcoat it. If they touch the ball a couple more times, come on, man. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad and hope that you hit the subscribe button. I'm not going to lay here and sit you and try to have you sugarcoat this offense last year. Wasn't a good look. Yeah. Our defense passed the eye test, right? Only criticism is to stop the run with a DT we missed on Dalvin Tomlinson. Okay, this is the objective this is the inaccuracy that fans have about our scheme, because like our scheme goes counter to what defenses have been doing since the dawn of time, right? So, since the beginning of time, when God created heaven and the earth, he also created football. And when football was created, the defense used to be on first and second down. You use your front 4 to stop the run. And then on third down, you rush the passer. And that was your job. And that's why like a play action pass on second down was developed, because you created time for your wide receivers to get open, because most people were anticipating the run. Now, what we do is the opposite. What we say is our back 7 So our corners, linebackers, and safeties are responsible for stopping the run. Our front four are responsible for stopping the pass. That's how we kind of, and this is a really, 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 really simple breakdown. I could talk about this for like an hour and a half, but basically, that's how it works. So this team is never going to use a Vita Vea style nose tackle guy who just eats up space on the defensive line. We're never going to use that type of guy. But what we will use is pass rushing guys. And that's why a guy like Kalijah Cansey is so interesting, because he's a pass rushing defensive tackle. And I think that he can do that at the next level insanely well. I think that's what he will do at the next level insanely well. But that's why a guy like Mazi Smith and Siaki Ika might not be fits for what I think the New York Jets are looking for at defensive tackle. This is also one of the reasons why a lot of people have a problem or a concern with like Quincy Williams and Jordan Whitehead, because they have such problems tackling. Quincy Williams can drop a hit stick, but he doesn't tackle well. Like, he doesn't wrap up. He throws a shoulder. Jordan Whitehead is 5'4", and thinking that he's throwing 120 pounds at 200-pound running backs. And that's the scheme that we use, like M. Lopez. Like, we're just... The responsibilities of stopping the run is on the backfield. So we're going to get better at stopping the run next year based purely on the fact that we added Chuck Clark, one of the best tackling safeties in the league. Based purely on that, we're going to get better at stopping the run. So I hope that answers your question. Hope that makes it a better understanding there. This is interesting. I wouldn't trade at 43 because I want a center there. But I wouldn't mind more draft picks, especially in this class. Alrighty, guys. We've been live for 2 hours. I'm exhausted. I'm hungry. I got to go do some homework that I should have been doing instead of going live. But I'm going to go live, because I always go live on Fridays. Guys, story time with Tigo. What kind of story you want to hear today? Before we end the stream in like 5 or 10 minutes. What kind of story do we want to hear? Navy story today? Want to hear a Navy story? Childhood story? Adult stupid Tigo story? Story of when I was robbing my parents and they didn't know about it? And I wasn't really robbing them, but yeah, I was robbing them. What do we want to hear? Rob V with the Navy story vote? I got a fun Navy story. Got a boot camp story. That's a good, fun boot camp story. Oh, yeah, no, it's story time. We end every Friday with story time with Tigo. Every Friday. Until I run out of stories. I love telling stories. Navy stories? Let's go Navy story. Let's talk about the story of the day. I almost broke my leg on the 3rd day of basic training. Alrighty. So, let me build the picture here. I am a young, stupid Tigo, and I join the Navy. That's not the stupid part. That's a good thing. I loved my time in the Navy. So I go and we go to basic training, and they weren't expecting me. Like, they weren't ready for me at all. So let me tell this story. I wanted to go into the Navy as a hospital corpsman. And basically, it's a medic. That's what I was when I was in the Navy. I was a medic. And that's what I wanted to be to go into the Navy. But they didn't have that rate open when I joined. So I took a rate with a ship date like 2 years in the future. And I told my recruiter that if an HM rate opened, you just forge my signature and you take it. So here's what happened. I was going to work, and then one day my recruiter calls me and she goes, I got a rate. I signed you up. You leave in a week. And I go, what? And she goes, yep, you leave in a week. And I go, damn. All right, cool. Let's do it. A week. Let's go. And so pack up my life, say goodbye to my wife, do all of those things, and I go off to the Navy. And when I get to MEPS, which is the Medical Processing Center for the military, they literally did not have my file ready. So they had delayed me. They didn't have a plane ticket bought for me, nothing. So all of this stuff happens. And the fantastic thing with this is when you go to the military, they keep you up for it's like 36 hours to get everybody on the same sleep schedule. So they try to get everyone there early in the morning so that they can keep you up throughout the entire day, keep you up the entire night, and get you to keep you up the entire next day so that you go to sleep the next night exhausted and everybody's sleep schedule is fixed in one go, right? Because you have people coming from Guam, from overseas, from all the time zones. You're all going to Chirac to do your, you're all going to Great Lakes and you're going to do your basics. So easy breezy, totally fine, right? But they didn't have a flight for me. So I hung out at the Jacksonville airport for like 8 hours. All of the people that I went there with, like to MEPS with, that were going to the Navy with me, and they had all left, they had all shipped, they had all got there. And I got to the airport. They told me, here's where you got to go, here's where you got to meet with. And I get there, and they forgot me. Like they didn't, I wasn't on the paper. So the USO had to call Great Lakes, and they were like, yo, you left a recruit here. And they were like, what do you mean? And they had to go find me in the system, blah, 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 blah. So all of this happens, right? So I got a pretty cushy first couple of days. But because I was late to all the processing, I got shoved into my unit that I would ultimately end up staying with. And I got shoved in there late. And because I got shoved in there late, I got a top bunk. And I didn't want a top bunk, but I got a top bunk. So your first 7 days of boot camp are called your P days. They're your processing days. And it's where you get all your shots. It's where you get all your everything. And on P3, is it P3 or P4? I don't remember. Is where you get all your shots. And it's absolutely brutal. You literally just walk in like a line and they just have needles. And it's like they stick you 3 times in your arm here, 2 times in your arm here. And then they take you 6 at a time to give you the peanut butter shot. Now, if you don't know what the peanut butter shot is, it's like the penicillin shot thing, right? That they give you. It is a thick liquid, think molasses. It's the consistency of molasses, and they stick it in your ass. So they get 6 of you. They tell you to face each other on a gurney, put your elbows down, ass out, and they don't even warn you. They just do boom, and they stick you with it. Now, here's the thing. Anybody who's gotten a shot knows that if you tense up the muscle, when they pull out, the needle does more damage, you get more sore. Now, because of all of the stuff, and they didn't tell me, I tensed up when the needle was going in and going out. And because of the thickness of the peanut butter shot and how like this thick molasses liquid that gets injected into your butt, I tried everything. I was massaging my butt and doing all of the things. Dude, we were doing weird stuff like at night. Like I was elbowing my bunkmate's butt for 5 minutes, and we were trying to make sure that we can get the blood circulation in there to get all the repair and all that stuff done. None of it worked. Well, at the end of your peanut butter shot, the guy in charge, like the medical guy, looks at everybody and says, if you sleep on the top bunk, don't jump out of your bunk or rack, right? Don't jump out of your rack in the morning. And I was like, what is this guy talking about? This guy's an idiot, right? So you're still getting used to the schedule and getting up and waking up and doing all those things. And at the time, I couldn't grow a beard, so I didn't need to wake up to shave or do any of those things. I would sleep in my uniform so that when my when the guys came in to yell at me, the SDCs came in, I could just jump out of the rack and be ready. And I could catch like another 2 or 3 minutes sleeping standing up. I got really good at sleeping standing up. Well, I'm sleeping in my uni, I'm sleeping in my stuff, and I'm sitting there, and I used to sleep above the blanket, so I wouldn't even have to make my bed. You would just have to re-tidy up the bed, and boom, then that was it. Because I like sleeping in the cold, and I went to Great Lakes in the winter. So I'm on the top of my bunk, I'm sitting there, just sleeping, and the guys come running in, and they got 2 minutes to get in front of your racks, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, not this drama again. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like feeling my legs, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is fine. And I jump out of my rack, and I got my shot here on my right butt cheek, and I'm right side dominant, so I land right leg first. And when I land, my leg's not there. And when I mean my leg's not there, I mean my leg was gone. I had no feeling in it. I had nothing. And when I say I almost broke my leg was, your leg's supposed to bend this way. My leg went bloop, bloop. I almost shattered my leg. I couldn't stand up at all. And if it wasn't for my rack mate, literally picked me up and tied me to the bedpost so that I could stand up. They all went into their office. He had to untie me, and we were sitting there, and luckily one of the other rack mates, because then we were finally given time to like go brush our teeth and get ready for breakfast. If the guy didn't, he had like icy hot spray. If it wasn't for that, I don't know how I was going to make it through the day. And here's the craziest part. So they hate you in the military. Like they want you to suffer. So they give you the peanut butter shot the day before you're supposed to do your first like run. So I had to do the run with an icy hot leg, with my ass not working and my right leg not working. And it's a timed event. It was rough. I made it. I passed. I got all my stuff. But that was how I started my time in the military. And that is the day where I almost broke my leg on my third day of being in the Navy. And here's the crazier part. Later in my time, I would actually get hurt and need to go to medical. And I got a chit that put me in like bed rest. But that was during one of the times where they had to do one of the swimming things. So I couldn't stay at bed rest, like in my like on my ship. And so they sent me to the place where people like who have serious like long-term medical things to go recover. They sent me there while they were doing like their things that they needed to do. And so I was hanging out there and I was on bed rest and I was talking to a couple of the people that were there. And apparently like people jumping off of their top rack and breaking their legs or like tearing stuff up in their knee is like a very common occurrence. Like it's like the number one thing that they not the number one, but like it's one of the things that they just see happen because no one listens. You're a young, dumb kid. And like I said, you sit up and you feel your legs and you don't feel sore. And but when you jump, you don't have any strength in that leg at all. But yeah, that's how I started my time in the Navy. There you go. I had a very similar experience when I went to go to green school. Like, because in the Navy, you can either be blue side or green side. And I was green side because I was with Marines, because I was a hospital corpsman. And I had a very similar experience with this arm. I actually messed up this arm in the military. And my backpack dislocated my shoulder. But there's that. That's a story for a different time. There you go. Hope that satisfied everyone's needs. Not as fun. I think it's funny. I love that story. I still tell it with some of my buddies. I think that's hilarious when that happened. But yeah, almost broke my leg on the third day of basic, which would have sucked because they don't send you home. You just get sent to a different ship and you sit there for like 3 or 4 months while you heal up. And then you go back to a different unit and you don't get your phone back. Nothing. There was a guy that like you can at any point in time, you can pull the plug and you can quit. But if you quit, you can never come back. Like it's a one-way ticket. Like if you quit, you can never come back. Like one of the things, like when I got discharged, I got medically discharged from my time in the Navy. So I could theoretically go back. I have too many problems to go back. Like I would have to get like 3 surgeries and a bunch of different things and prove a bunch of different things. Like it'd be easier for me to go to like the Army and like than to go back to the Navy or anything like that. But that's a different story. But like there was a guy that was in there for 9 months. He didn't go through basic, nothing. He was just in the recovery wing for 9 months. And this kid was like 19 years old. Spent his 19th birthday there. He left his home at 18. He couldn't like call his parents, couldn't do any of that stuff because you don't have your phone, you don't have computer access, nothing. You just sit in the ship, you play board games, you read books. And if one of your family members loves you enough and you can write a letter to them, or that once a week when you can make a phone call to ship you something, that was it. But yeah, he quit. Never went back because he was there for 9 months. He had 3 surgeries while he was there. And so he was just like, you're going to fix me because I got hurt here in the military. And like he got his VA card so that he can keep going because he messed up. Like it was, I forget what the drill was or what was going on, but he messed something up and he had to get like 3 different surgeries. It was like 9 months of rehab after the 9 months of going and getting the 3. It was a whole thing. But yeah, man. And I went And like I got out right before COVID, which was hilarious because like, it was a whole thing. But yeah, there you go. Boom. Brutal. And to think I was so close to enlisting. Geez. Dude, I love my time in the military. If I was a young man and I didn't have a son and another son on the way and a wife, I would still be in the military. My time in the Navy was and still is one of my favorite memories and like experiences that I have. It taught me discipline. It taught me respect. It taught me, accountability and all of those things. It gave me an opportunity to do something that I truly, truly wanted to do. And while I didn't accomplish all of my goals when I was in the military, I never got deployed. I never was able to go overseas. I never got able to do any of those things because of my injuries and the things that I had. It was one of those things where I was so close to doing all that stuff. Like the injuries are what derailed my career, but like there was a good to fair chance that like I was on a special forces track. I was on a whole thing like to go overseas and be with, it was a whole thing. I was like I said, I was a medic. In a pinch, I can save most of your guys. Like, here's the thing. I can stabilize you enough to get you to a hospital. That's what my job was, right? We used to joke around with a lot of our guys, and I used to joke around and saying like, "Oh, because I used to be called Doc by a lot of the Marines and the stuff that I used to be with, and it's just like, I'm not a doc, right?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Don't you heal people?" I was like, "No. What are you talking about? I'm not a doctor. I'm a medic." And he's like, "What's the difference?" He's like, well, doctors heal people. Medics just make you comfortable while you die. My whole job is to make you shut up when you're dying." And, but that was it. Yeah. I was on a Buds track, Rob V. Actually, I was on a SARC track. It's a different thing. I would have been with Navy SEALs, but I wouldn't have had the pendant. There's a whole workaround around it. So with hospital corpsmen, because the Marine Corps, they have like a couple of special forces units, right? They have their tier 1 units, they have their special forces guys, they have their Marine recons and all that stuff. Well, the Navy, John B, thank you for subscribing. The Marine Corps doesn't have any medical staff. All of the medical side of everything that's handled by the Marine Corps is done by the Navy. And that includes going up into the special forces kinds of things. So there are 2 tracks that you can do as a hospital corpsman if you wanted to get to special forces. You can do the Navy SEAL track and go through Buds and do all of that stuff. And that's incredibly difficult. Obviously, everyone's seen all this stuff when it comes to Buds. Or you can go, it's essentially a Marine recon track, which is a little bit easier. But because of the fact that, like they need medical personnel, because when you go through Buds, most of those guys aren't choosing being, like most of the guys like don't choose to be medical personnel when you get there. They're choosing to be like snipers or canine handlers or weapon specialists or demolition specialists or something along those lines. There's a massive need for special forces medics in the Navy and specifically in the SEAL community and in the Marine Corps community. So I was on what's called a SARC track, which would have either put me with Marine Raiders, or is it Marine Raiders? What are the Marines called? Marine Special Forces called? I forget what it is. I know it's MARSOC, but what are they called? Yeah, they're the Marine Raiders. Yeah. They either need Raiders, they either need medical personnel for Force Recon, for the Raiders, or for the SEALs. And so it was easier for me to get to Special Forces through a SARC track, and I would have still been able to do the things that I wanted, and I could have still gotten onto a Tier 1 team with the SEALs or the Raiders in either way. And that's what I wanted, is I wanted to be a Tier 1 operator. And yeah, so there's that. There's my story. But again, both of my knees and this shoulder kept me out of it. But there you go. Any other questions? Here's the thing, Wild Wave. There was no doctors. You couldn't send me away. I was the guy. I was going to keep you alive no matter what. No, that was, it was just like, again, it was like the funny jokes and all that stuff. But yeah, there was no doctors in the military. Come on, dude. They spend way too much money to let people die. I'm supposed to keep people alive. Alrighty, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Everyone that hit the subscribe button, everybody that hung out. Guys, remember that if you want to be a part of the Talking Jets with Tigo Navy, now some of you understand a little bit more why this is called, and you want to be part of the giveaway, make sure to hit the join button. We have 3 members right now. It costs less than a cup of coffee a month. On every single video that I post to this channel, there's a join button down below. Another thing is, if you want to get some Talking Jets with Tigo merch, in the description is that there. Also, don't forget to hit the sub button on your way out. We're so close to 2,300 subs. Would greatly appreciate it if we could get there. We are like 30 subscribers away. I'm so excited. I got a lot of really, really cool things planned for the channel. We're going to do a lot more giveaways. Like I said, the first one that we're going to be doing is the Talking Jets with Tigo Navy giveaway, which is going to be a t-shirt jersey. Then we're going to do a custom piece of art giveaway. That's coming soon. I'm very excited for all of that. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out Friday night. Make sure to come back Wednesday for the Wednesday wrap-up at 8 o'clock. Is it 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock? I don't remember when it is. It's sometime. It's before the Buffalo Jet Fan Show. Yeah, so it's 8 o'clock. We go 1 hour Wednesdays, 8 to 9. Come hang out. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thank you guys for hearing my stories, letting me do the things that I love with this YouTube stuff and all of that stuff, and supporting me the way that only you guys know how to, which is hitting the subscribe button and doing all that stuff, which is greatly appreciated. Listen to Rob V. Subscribe and hit the like button on the way out. I love all of you so very much. And until next time, my name is Talking Jets with Tigo.